Yo, what up, friends? Into our United States news for the week. Wowzers. Do we have some stuff to talk about today, y'all? Oh, no. Y'all know where I'm going. You've watched the news today. You watched the news last night. I mean, unless you live under a rock, you know what's happened within the past 24 hours. You also know, if you watch this show, yes, we love Paddington. That is correct. My producer, shout out. You watch this show, you know how imperative informational security, when it comes especially to national security of the United States, how important that is to me personally. We don't need to get into why that is, but there's many reasons that is important to me and important to safeguarding not only the lives of service members and veterans and civilians and contractors working with our armed forces. All of these things, uber important. But those are not the only things that you risk. When you put national security information that is classified on an unclassified platform. What happened? Y'all, this is going to get deep, so stay with me here for a second while I give the description of everything that has happened in the past 24 hours that we found out, and then I will give you my professional opinion on this, and it is a professional one. The journalist that was accidentally included in a secret war planning chat, Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg, was mistakenly included in a conversation among top United States officials where they planned and debated military strikes on the Houthi rebels in Yemen on the encrypted messaging app Signal. Now, yes, I did include the word encrypted there, and that will come in handy in a little bit. The National Security Council, as described by Goldberg, included the Secretary of Defense, newly nominated and maligned by yours truly for not having enough experience. We'll get into that in a second. Pete Hegseth, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance, as well as another maligned cabinet member that I said had not the proper, not that she didn't have the proper experience, because she did have the experience, but rather may not have had the proper relationships or ties, or may have had some liabilities. Irregardless, allegedly, U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz mistakenly included this journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg, in the chat. I mean, that's red flag number one, right? Red flag number one is when your national security advisor cannot properly put together an email, a chat, a note, something, without including the wrong people in it. That's red flag number one. Like, geez, that's the most basic of mistakes that should not be made. Well, I digress. Let's move on. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared details of military plans to be used against the Yemen Houthi rebels within this chain that was led on this Signal app. The chain included, and as we know of now, and I obviously will give you all of the information as we get it, and you know I only give you the correct researched information. What we know right now, because Jeffrey Goldberg is a stand-up human being, and not someone out to just get people. That's where I don't get where the conservatives are coming from, saying that he was trying to get them, because he could have really got them if he just released all the information. He didn't. He redacted anything he thought was important enough that could be classified, because he knew that classified information should not be let out. We'll get to that in just a second. Then, after it all came out, Pete Hegseth went on to deny the report, even though it had already been called authentic by the National Security Council, and went on to blame the journalist, which is just, I mean, why do politicians especially continue to do this trick? Like, we know what came out. We already heard the information. You can't say it didn't happen when we already know it's verified. Like, and I know you just got off a plane, but you got to be advised of that. Come on now, before you talk. Anyways, he was probably getting ready for his Hawaiian vacation, so that is what it is. Hegseth dismissed the report as deceitful and highly discredited, and denied sharing war plans. Goldberg reported the chat contained detailed operational plans for upcoming strikes against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. He says when he was added to the chat, it was 2 hours before when these were being discussed. 2 hours later, he actually saw the bombs drop. He actually found out it was real and knew that he was in a real chat, because he had thought the whole time that it was a joke or a scam. He didn't even realize that it was a real chat until the bombs actually dropped. This information reportedly included targets, weaponry, and attack sequencing. While the classification remains unclear, because he did redact what he thought was classified, so we still don't technically know what was in there, I can assume if the journalist probably thought it was highly classified enough and he has no clue, I'm pretty sure it might have been classified, because most things in war planning are going to be classified. Take that from me. Anyways, what happens though is this truly sacrifices operational security and the safety of our military, armed forces, veterans, contractors, civilians across the world. Any type of this information gets out to China, Russia, North Korea. And if you think they're not on the Signal app, you're tripping, and you need to check it, because they are definitely on that app, just like most countries are. Now, let's play a little advocate here. It was said that you know what? A little more information first before we get into my professional opinion about this. The U.S. has been conducting airstrikes, by the way, since November of 2023. So as Joe Biden was leaving office, he actually had already dropped an attack on the Yemen Houthi rebels, who have been doing this for over a year, and they needed to be attacked. So first of all, let me, before I even get into any more, completely acknowledge the validity and necessity of the strikes on the Houthi rebels, because they were very much so disrupting shipping lanes, which affects not only logistics, which affects not only how we get our products from across the world, but also was affecting other countries in Europe. And so, got it. Needed to be attacked, was already being attacked before Trump even came into office. So not even going to say Trump and the Trump administration is wrong for launching this attack. Totally warranted. The issue is when you then decide to talk about these things in an app that, although encrypted, which it is, it's not classified, and it's not encrypted enough to have classified information on it. There is a different level of encryption that happens between classified servers and platforms and classified servers and platforms. Not going to get into it. You can Google whatever you need to Google. That is the bigger issue here. Why, as I thought I turned my ringer off, ESPN is telling me something happened. I apologize. And it looks like, let's give you an update. Damian Lillard of the Milwaukee Bucks has developed deep vein thrombosis in his right calf, out indefinitely. Wow, prayers up to Damian Lillard. He's actually dealing with the same thing that now Joel Embiid just went out with. And Also, I have somebody very close to me dealing with deep vein thrombosis at this very moment. So y'all make sure you get your veins checked out. Make sure that blood is flowing properly, right? Let me see. Mike Weeby says, we act like that. We used to call them dick riders, but things done changed. Ain't that the truth? You are completely right, my brother. Again, thank you for coming on yesterday. I wish my video looked like this yesterday rather than what it did, but I still appreciate you. And yes, we would call them dick riders, a faux show. All right. But anyways, and again, I don't care about President Trump claiming ignorance. Maybe somehow no one told him. I highly, highly cannot believe that. But maybe they did. Maybe for some reason in the time-space continuum, no one decided to update the president on what happened. Fine. Again, I highly doubt that. But let's just say that he didn't know. The problem doesn't really have to do with him or if he knew. The problem has to do with conversations that should be taking place in a SCIF, which is a sensitive compartmented information facility, which is where classified information is supposed to be discussed, held, stored, and otherwise handled. You do not take those discussions outside of the SCIF facility. Now, I spoke because I have some contacts in this story, some sources close to this story. So I reached out and I asked the questions. I asked, okay, how much of this was classified? The answer was not all of it, but why does that really matter? And you should know that. And the you should know that is what really hit me, because when you sign up for this sort of thing, when you are put into a position as a military member, as a civilian, as a contractor, and you get a security clearance, your main job, forget job, the whole purpose of your life at that point in time, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, from when you get your clearance to when you're to the day that you die. There is no expiration of a clearance, by the way. There might be an expiration of a clearance, but you still better hold those secrets till you die, because that's how important that information is. And when you take it to an unclassified platform, you risk that information getting out to our enemies. And that is completely, utterly unfathomable and unacceptable. People, they said there's going to be an investigation. President Trump said, I don't believe that. I don't think there will be an investigation, or it'll just be swept under the rug. But you can guarantee that if this had happened while, and again, I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I hate all politicians. If you watch this show, you know that. I think they're all liars, scums, and cheaters. Liars, cheats, and scum. Woo! Shout out my boy Francis Long. So I hate both sides of the aisles. I think all parties are stupid. I just come here to give you the neutral point of view. But had that happened when Joe Biden was in office, Donald Trump would have been the first person to say something. And so if he doesn't hold his own people to the account, this is going to look very bad if it's swept under the rug, which I'm sure it will be somehow, some way. He never gets caught for any of the things that he does, but that's neither here nor there on this program. Again, I'm not here to judge. Another problem, and I told y'all before he got confirmed, Pete Hegseth was wholly and fully unqualified to be the Secretary of Defense. Not only had he not been in the military for years and was working as a Fox News host, but even when he was in the military, he didn't head up any departments. He didn't head the Pentagon. He didn't head the Department of Defense. He didn't head any of these organizations that would belie to you the experience necessary to run an organization like the Department of Defense, which includes the military, which includes the Pentagon, which includes all the other things that come with that. No, I said he was unqualified, fully, wholly unqualified. And he has proven it with this amateur, like toddler move. I just don't understand how you would even, any logical, normal human being with half a brain could see that this was the wrong thing to do. But just admitting the mistake, but granted, at least they've come out now after they were called out on it and then later admitted that they made the mistake. But the problem is that this should never happen in the first place. And when you have someone that's starting the chat that doesn't have the experience necessary and wouldn't even know where he should have a classified chat at versus where he shouldn't, this is what you get. Anyways, so we'll see what happens. I'll keep you updated on this, but this is definitely a stunning and just absolutely horrifying breach of national security intelligence. And I don't care that nothing came out of it. I don't care that, well, I do care, and I'm very happy that no soldiers or civilians or contractors or U.S. personnel were hurt. I'm very happy for that. Thank God. Just someone needs to be charged. Actions needs to be taken swiftly. Someone needs to be chopped off at the head for this, not literally. So don't go running and saying, I'm telling you to kill anybody. I believe either Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who probably, since he's the unexperienced one here, most unexperienced, should be the one to go. But Mike Walls probably needs to have some comeuppance, because it would probably never come out had he not made that mistake. Now, that's not good either. We shouldn't look at it like that. We should look at, just because he put it out there. That's not the way to look at it. No, the way to look at it is, why did this ever happen? And why would anyone think it's okay in the first place? It's not okay. No one would be able to come on this show right now and argue with me that there would be any reason that would even be okay, no matter even if it was installed on the government computers, because they tell you when you get that security clearance and when you're dealing with classified information, not to use it on any unclassified platforms. And Signal is an unclassified platform. There's nothing else to it. It's black and white. It's not political. It is a black and white issue. And even more rich about this is that just a couple weeks ago, Pete Hegseth was talking about how personnel in the Pentagon needed to be subject to new polygraph tests and other things because of alleged leaks from the Pentagon. So that's really rich coming from him now that this has happened. And as well, Tulsi Gabbard, who on her X account just a couple weeks ago said that anyone who releases classified information should be punished to the fullest extent. Pretty sure she didn't feel that way today when she was in Congress saying, I don't recall anything. President Trump has dubbed Liberation Day for the economy. Countries that buy oil from Venezuela will have to pay an additional 25% tariff on trades. Now, if we go back to the tariffs that I talked about at the beginning, you will remember that and my producer wanted me to correct this, but you will remember when I talked about the tariffs at first, I said that President Trump should use the tariffs in positions of power. Now, when that was said, it was taken to mean by some people that I meant doing that against all countries, like Canada, like Mexico, our neighbors, stuff like that. But I did not mean doing it with those people. What I was referring to was doing it against our enemies. And this is one of those times when that political pressure, when those tariffs need to be put into place, is to use that power to force other countries to do things that we need them to do, like take criminals out of our country. So this would be one of the times that I would agree on the tariffs that are being used, and this will also cause other countries to also respect the law of having criminals infiltrating the country. So anyways, we will see what happens with that. We'll keep you updated here on that. But they did try to deport the Venezuelan gang members due to a 1798 Alien Enemies Act, which a judge actually in the middle of the flights to Venezuela told them to stop. They defied the orders and kept sending the planes. All of the gang members are now in Venezuelan jails that, by the way, the U.S. is actually paying for. We are paying them to house their own criminals. So, yes, thank you. I appreciate you letting me know, producer, that we're doing good. I'm going to wrap it up anyways. It looks like in that moment of lost audio, everybody dipped out. So not really much more point in me continuing. I'm getting a little tired anyways of talking. So I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. We'll save that till next week. We'll save that till next week. All right, world news. Moving into world news. First of all, we're going to update you here on the Ukraine-Russian war and as well the Israel and Hamas ceasefire. So let me get my banner up here. Boom. There we go. Cool. So anyways, updating you, Ukraine-Russia talks continue this week in Saudi Arabia. U.S. officials are meeting with both sides, hoping to reach a deal by April 20th, 420 for all my small guys. Anyways, talks with Ukraine were held yesterday evening, while talks with Russia will be held today. Discussions are focusing on the safety of the shipping in the Black Sea and temporarily protecting energy facilities and critical infrastructure from attacks. Russia and Ukraine agree on the latter, but details still need to be decided on. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is aiming for a 30-day ceasefire to allow time for negotiations on a permanent truce. Ukraine previously accepted a 30-day ceasefire proposal, but Russian President Vladimir Putin declined to endorse it. Russian demands for any agreement include an end of arms supplies to Ukraine from the U.S., which obviously Ukraine is going to reject. These talks come after Russia and Ukraine traded drone attacks over the weekend. So we'll keep you updated as always and see what happens there. In Israel, new airstrikes in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis killed Hamas political leader Salah Baldawil. The Gaza death toll has now passed 50,000 and this is by the Hamas-run, which is the terrorist organization, the Hamas-run health ministry. Israeli strikes in Lebanon as well, after the terrorist group Hezbollah fired rockets on Israel, geez Louise, and exchanges the worst violence since November. Other news, South Korean court overturns the impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, and he has now been reinstated as president. You will know that's an update to a story we brought up on this show a few months back when he was first ousted as the president when he tried to attempt to use the military force to keep himself in office. He was then later impeached, but has now been brought back by a South Korean court who has now disregarded that impeachment. All right, everything else seems to not be important enough to continue to talk about today. So all the other news I had for you, which was probably about 30 more minutes, that will move to next week, which will give me less research I have to do for next week. So that works out fine. That being said, make sure you are subscribed at Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS on YouTube. There's a handy QR code up at the top. Go ahead and use that bad boy to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram, and all the rest of it. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, The Bottom Line Sports. Please make sure you join our Facebook group at The Bottom Line Sports. Again, The Bottom Line Sports Facebook group if you like sports news and trash talk group. Tomorrow night, myself, Canteen, and Hot Take Jake will be together again to give you your weekly dose of sports news, updates, and all-around hilariousness. We will also have a guest with us tomorrow. I have not figured out who that guest will be yet, but I will secure a guest this evening. And finally, do not forget Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern as well. On Ball and Buds, you will have banter, brawls, and bravado, our pop culture trash talking show where you will have Clubber D the Combat G, Mike Wiebe, comedian Bajuan Malave, and yours truly, the Street Professor. And we will go to town on all types of issues, including Diddy, including the Hawk Chua girl, including LeBron and Stephen A., including Fox Sports, including the government, and including all types of other topics that we want to rail on and talk a bunch of trash about. So tune in for that, but do make sure if you have kids or if you don't like explicit language, be very, very forewarned that this is a extreme parental advisory consent that you do not want to tune in Thursday night if you do not like foul language, or what some people consider foul language, what I consider to be perfectly fine, because they weren't foul language before someone decided that these were. Actually, let me give you all a quick fun fact before we leave for the day. The word shit, which people now use to mean using the bathroom or whatever, or kind of other context you want to use it in, the word shit actually was not used in that context. It originally, and still to this day, means in logistics, in transportation, it means shipping high in transit. And what that means, and I know this because I took business, international business in college, and they taught us this. Shout out my international business professor for this great knowledge. But what happens is when ships take cargo across the sea, they ship the most important and valuable goods as high as possible on the crates. And that's why it's called shipping high in transit. So shit was never a vulgar word before someone decided to use it in a context that could be used to be vulgar. But instead, this whole entire time, it's truly just an acronym, which means in cargo ships, logistics, transportation, shipping high in transit. And that's why you come here, because I am the professor, because you will get this excellent knowledge from your boy. So as always, I appreciate all y'all tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Ball and Buds, BALLANDBUDS. Make sure you're kind to each other. Have a blessed and successful week. I know I will.
Subscribe on YouTube at Ball and Buds.